Okay, go ahead, Rajesh.
Rajesh, grateful recovering alcoholic. For me, while I'm on this road to recovery, from being a very active alcoholic to learning more about the program, uh, I think, there is one aspect of me that still is not sort of very receptive. Probably it's more to do with, I can't give what I don't have sort of thing, right? So when we talk about service, I have done a little bit of service in my earlier years of sobriety. That was many, many years back, where I used to chair some meetings, in Trinity Church. But I never did it, with a sense of purpose. And then I lost my sobriety after 10 years and I went back to drinking again. So for me, what I would like to take away is how can I be useful, you see, to other people, to the other members, to the fellowship, in whatever way I can, even if I have little bit of, awareness in me, how can I use what I have today, and which I'm very grateful for the little that I have. How can I use that to help others? Yeah. So that's important for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Rajesh. Chandra, our guest from Trivandrum.
Yeah, Chandra, our colleague. Nice to be here, Kunal, for this workshop. Actually, see, I was a delegate long time back, that was in 2000, 2003 to GSO India. But now I have few sponsors and they ask me so many questions. Then only I know my ignorance of some of the things that is happening right now. Only I do have the bookish knowledge right now. So I'm here to learn new things. Thank you.
Thanks, Chandra. Noel, you're on mute. Noel, you are muted. We can't hear you.
I'm Noel. I'm an alcoholic, and I've been in service, but it's maybe I've not understood the whole thing about service structure, how it works. And, so for me, it's all about learning and knowing the traditions, where to apply it, and how. And especially in our group here, I've been seeing a lot of stuff happening. So I want to know how maybe I can answer a guy if there is some question that comes, and how the tradition is applied into that. So for me, it's just I want to learn more about it and to understand in a better way what the tradition means and what really service means. The concept about, well, steps. Okay, I've done it, and things. But when it comes to this, especially with all my colleagues, yeah, we get into arguments, a lot of stuff which is unnecessary because I don't know half the things. I say things, and everybody pounces, and I'm like, I know everything. And no shit, yeah. Let's be honest. I know hardly any of this stuff that people talk about. I've not been into tradition workshops and all these things. Anyway, thanks for letting me share.
Thanks, Noel. Santosh?
I'm Santosh, alcoholic. Yeah, see, I've long back, the message has passed to me from Chandra Mohan only. So that time, even after two weeks or 1 month sobriety, Harry used to take me along with him for the 12 steps. Chandra used to take me after 2 weeks to his 12 step works and all. I used to go there. They take me to to impress because I'm a Malu. I will talk to them and all. But later, I drink and I will not go for all these things. So is it advisable for a person in the initial time to go along with someone who is having long time of sobriety? But later, that guy will come to know the person who has come to me is drinking now. He came with the other guy who is drunk. Is it advisable? Or is there a specific period is mentioned that you go along with somebody for a 12 step? One thing. Second thing, is it any guidelines to select a sponsor? Because when I come to the AA, I feel okay, Kunal, he speaks nice, Oscar is not that way, so many in the books, they are very good in the books and all, but in practically when we interact more, the level of understanding will be different. They are good in AA knowledge, everything, but I feel that it's a long choice of the sponsor. So it's any guidelines Or is there any time limit? When should I select a sponsor, or is it advisable when to select a sponsor? Okay, if I feel that the sponsor is not good, can I change the sponsor? How to tell the sponsor? How to tell him nicely that I don't feel that I will go with them. These are the things which I like.
Okay, thanks, Santosh. Good. Praveen?
Hi, Praveen, alcoholic. Good to be here. And yeah, I've been of service quite some time back at the home group level, and then I've taken a back seat. So just back on course to try and learn something new and see what I can grasp. So yeah, that's where I am.
Okay. Guru?
So my name is Guru. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Guru.
See, for me, the first step of our recovery is extremely important. My powerlessness or alcoholic, and then unmanageability of my life. Recently I have realized that this unmanageability part can't be addressed unless I'm thorough with the traditions. I need to go through the traditions and understand them in detail, not superficially. Like as we do the steps, as we go through the steps rigorously, we need to go through the traditions also rigorously to understand the management of our day-to-day life. I really feel that if we can uh, you know learn these steps properly or attend them, be attentive about it, they can really enhance the quality of life that we are living. That is my interest in learning the traditions, which for all these years I was just going through the as a mechanical way. People used to read the traditions, or even I have not read them quite often. But after attending the workshop by Pushan, and when he went through all the traditions in detail, I realized that if we are abreast of traditions in recovery. I'm not saying we are all recovered. In recovery, it can enhance the quality of life. It can help us manage our own personal life better. And once you are an organized person, you can be more useful to the fellowship also. That is my. That's the reason why I want to be in this traditional work.
Thanks, Guru. Yeah, makes sense. Oscar?
My name is Oscar and I'm an alcoholic.
How?
I've been in service like the home group level and the intergroup level. Attended, I think, an AOSM as an observer. I believe that service is on the higher levels is left up to those who can serve at those higher levels. But I also believe that those people at the higher levels who talk about sobering up the whole world, should come sometimes and put chairs and and serve coffee, and if somebody's coffee is spilled, wipe that thing. That also is a part of service, at a home group level. So I am not cut out for the higher levels. That's what I believe, because I'm afraid of a large audience. I'm afraid of whatever. But uh, I'm here to learn. I'm here to see the uh, I attended the first second part of this Pushan's workshop, but missed the latter 6 because of work commitments. So I just like to learn, listen. I believe in the traditions because you know like even though want to say something, and there are ton people taking a punch at you, and you want to say something back and you're afraid of saying it because it might hurt somebody's ego and that person might go and drink since he's only you just refrain from saying some things, and the unity of the group, so I want to know, where to draw the line, how to, because even at one point of time, I believe I was a newcomer, and, uh, when newcomers take pot shots at you, and that too on an international platform, not taking names, of course, but that's bad. So I want to learn what's good for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Oscar. Great. So I'm going to respond first and foremost to Santosh, because that's the easy part of the questions. And it's kind of something that we will probably not be covering the rest of the workshop. So let's get it out of the way. So Santosh, for your information, there is a booklet called Sponsorship. And this is easily downloadable on the website from aa.org. And it gives you some very nice tips and guidelines and suggestions on how to choose sponsors, how to choose a sponsor. And I speak for everybody. If I think I speak for everybody when I can tell you there are no rules for choosing a sponsor. Really, the couple of things that people usually told me, and that works for me, and I think others will probably support me in this, is that you choose a sponsor, a person who you think has something that you want, first of all. Somebody who is attractive to you and you find him to be, I could get something from this person, So that's the first level of attraction, not promotion, that we, ask somebody to look for a sponsor. Another thing that they say is that ideally speaking, a sponsor is someone who guides the sponsee through the 12 steps. That's his primary responsibility. So to share his understanding of the 12 steps so that the newcomer can go through the steps. So of course, experience in working the steps and taking someone through the steps is preferred. It could be a nice thing. So you might want to check with your prospective sponsor. And have you worked the steps? Can you help me work the steps? And he should be able to say yes. Otherwise, why are you taking him as a sponsor? So that's the main second other thing. You can fire your sponsor anytime, and of course, when we say fire, we usually do it respectfully and thank him for the time he spent with us. And we, appreciate his time with his friend. And we say, do you mind if I can choose somebody else? It is shy. It is a little awkward. I understand. Asking someone to be a sponsor is difficult for us. And after that, asking somebody to not be a sponsor for us after some time is also a little difficult. But it is very nicely done. I mean, most sponsors would understand it completely and, give you a hug and say, I'm always there for you, as a friend now, and I wish you all the best. So really, you can shift sponsors also. So please never hesitate to do that. And the other thing you asked a little bit about was, is there a guidelines on time to do service? No, you should do service as soon as possible. The only thing that matters sometimes in structured service, like a GSR or an intergroup rep or a delegate to a certain whatever service level, there are defined sobriety times anyway. So if that's the structured service part. So for example, we have said that our GSR should be at least 1 year sober. Our treasurer should be at least 2 years sober. That's what the road to sobriety guidelines are. But that doesn't mean you cannot do any other service. You can do any other service, definitely, like chairing the group, chairing the meetings. I think we have defined it as 6 months at this point in time. And other than that, if you are accompanying somebody who's going on a service call, you're welcome to do that. And I think that's a great way to learn how to do service, for which there is no time commitment required. Even from the second day onwards, I remember I was less than 1 week sober, and I was going on 12-step calls with people around, because they would just pick me up and take me with them. They were doing 12-step calls, I was going along with them. Sometimes I would open my mouth and sometimes I would not. So I think there's absolutely no issue. And that's just the fellowshipping side of it, which you should throw yourself into. And I think Chandra and those who have worked with you before would support that. So I don't know, does anybody want to add anything on the sponsor side of things for Santosh's benefit, so that we can close that chapter and then go on to the traditions concept side? Anybody can come in and share with Santosh.
I'm Noel, I'm an alcoholic. I just want to say is, when I first came in new, Santosh, I would relate with all the newcomers. And that was, I wanted to talk to them and, whatever. I took up a sponsor. He was not married. I was not married. We were in the fellowship. And as time went by, I got married, I had a child, I had, a wife and a kid. My priorities changed in life here. My sponsor was still not married. Now, how to deal with my children and, things like this. I could not talk to him because he never understood me here. Not that I changed him, he was there, but I had another guy who I could talk to, who was married and who was senior, and who knew about the program. And so as we are growing, it depends here. It's not that, I believe here, you need to have another couple of friends. Sponsor will just guide me. I believe that. And it's my job to do what I have to do, work the program. And regarding going on meetings, Harry would take me, even when I was just one day sober, yeah, he's taken me to the hospitals, he's taken me to newcomers. And it was the best thing he ever did here. Once he took me to this Rashid hospital, and there was this mental hospital over there. And he told me, and it was, I think, Andy or somebody who was there, who was, gone cuckoo. He said, listen, if you keep drinking, this is what is going to happen to you. There was a fear that set in with me here, looking at that, I'm going to be that. So it was a great thing that, if you're going, the newcomers can go. And it was a great eye opener for me, to be very honest here. It reminds me what I'm going to be next here. And it's great I loved it actually. He would take me where all here, taken me to a lot of newcomer meetings, and I would accompany him. And it was the best thing to learn here, basically for me, and to be aware that this is all going to happen to me if I don't stop drinking. Thanks.
So actually, I just remembered something, and I should have brought this in earlier. So let me give you a little bit of perspective on where the sponsoring comes from. Historically speaking, what is sponsoring in AA? For example, the Big Book doesn't talk about, there's no mention of the word sponsor at all in the Big Book. Sponsoring in the early days, during when AA was growing home to home, family to family, rather than in meetings, it was being done in people's homes. Meetings were done in people's homes. People would come in, alcoholics would come in with their wives. And the men, usually men alcoholics, at that time there were hardly any women alcoholics. The men would sit in the living room and work together and discuss and talk about their alcoholism and have a kind of a meeting. The wives would go into the kitchen and they would be having their own. So that was the genesis of the Al-Anon meetings. So the family group started in the kitchens while the men were sitting in the living room and doing it. Newcomer would come in, people would come in, there were no meetings advertised. So somebody would get a prospect. You were actually going out there and catching a newcomer, an alcoholic, and bringing him into the group. You were expected, as the person who was bringing the newcomer, you were expected to take him aside, work with him, and clarify to him exactly his desire to stop drinking. Is he ready to explain to him the program of Alcoholics Anonymous? Share with him the spiritual solution that the program offers. Take his spiritual commitment and his consent that he will work the program with you and he accepts the solution that is outlined for him. And then maybe even take him through steps 1, 2, and 3, which is basically make him understand the powerlessness, have him admit his powerlessness, understand his unmanageability, realize that no human power can keep him sober, not even himself, that he has to hand this over to a higher power, a God of his understanding, and that self-will and self-centeredness is the root of his problems, and that he has to stop doing that. He has to find God's will, otherwise he will not be able to get sober. He has to do that basic work, and at the end of that, if the sponsor, he's not yet, so he would, that man who has brought this newcomer into the room, will then come with the newcomer into the bigger group and announce to them, I now sponsor this person. I have qualified this man and I now bring him into the group because I believe he's ready for our program. So that's how they were used to do it at that time. They were kind of very rigorous about it. That's why the steps were done in a few matter of days, not like years. And that's why the success rates were 75-80%, not like 5% that we're talking about today. So sponsoring came from there. And of course, over time, it became diluted and it became more and more diluted. And you choose anybody you like. Nobody should be able to tell you who to sponsor, how to sponsor. It just became a little ineffective. And even today, we are very shy of saying that, hey, I'm going to be your sponsor and this is how I'm going to do it. It's like as if it is the wrong thing to say. But historically speaking, sponsoring was a vital aspect, and it was the one which ensured success from sobriety, from drinking. So it was very different in those days, and changed a lot. Today we just basically, we put a few guidelines out there, and some, what I shared earlier was what we are talking about in the rooms today. What I shared just now is how it used to be done in those early days. Anyway, so I hope that clarifies a little bit for you, Santosh, and we can move on to that. I hope you find a great sponsor, and I'm sure you will. Everybody can, help you in this matter. All right, let's talk a little bit about, go back to our tradition. Hi, welcome, Harish. Good to see you here. Okay.
Sorry for coming in late, Kunal. I will also be leaving soon.
I understand. No worries. We'll continue as much as we can. Okay, all right, guys. Let me see, how do I go ahead from here? Okay, we did all this. I'm just going to go quickly to tradition 1. Now, the first tradition, our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. And it's really a big thing that Oscar brought it up, and I think it's one of the main questions that keeps coming up. And I think we should talk a little bit about this. But just like Guru said, steps 1 is fundamental. Without 100% commitment to step 1, you really have very little chance of getting sober. Similarly, tradition 1 is fundamental. Without tradition 1, you have very little chance of a group being effective in fulfilling its primary purpose, which is to carry the message. Without tradition 1, it is very likely groups will break up and disappear. Very likely that groups will have internal conflict, and people will not be able to find the kind of decorum of sobriety and serenity that people expect, and the loving grace of a fellowship will probably not be there in the group. It will be, driven by ego-driven personalities will be dominating the group, and newcomers will not find it attractive. They may hang around for a while because they have no other choice, but after some time they will find other groups or they will leave. So there is a little bit of a paradox in tradition 1. It says, so are we therefore trying to say that the group is more important than the individual? It says individual sobriety depends on the group. The group depends on us. We soon learn that unless we curb our individual desires and ambitions, we can damage the group. So anybody wants to bring in a specific situation here, you're welcome to. We can talk around this. One of the examples that sometimes comes up is, and again, I'm trying to relate different traditions here because you guys have an understanding. I'm assuming you all know, at least by wording, you know the traditions. For example, let's take a hypothetical example. A newcomer comes in and he is repetitively drunk, and he keeps coming in drunk into the rooms, and he's disruptive, and he disturbs the proceedings of the meeting, and he's, interrupts, and he hogs the limelight, and he's noisy and disruptive. So you can well imagine, we've all been there. What should the group do? Because at one level, somebody could say, tradition 3, the only requirement, and you keep asking him, hey, brother, do you want to kind of sober up? Why are you doing this? No, I want to get sober, but I have a desire to stop drinking, but I'm not being able to do it. I can't stop drinking on my own. I'm trying, but it's not working. I'm failing. I relapsed again, and so on and so forth. So, but he's disruptive also. He's not just a quiet drunk who comes after a relapse and sits in the corner. So here we have tradition 3, which says the only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. Whereas tradition 1 says that our common welfare should come first. And I'm not talking about the personal recovery depends on AA unity part. I'm just saying our common welfare. So it is possible that this drunk newcomer who's coming in, there are other newcomers out there who are sober now, trying their best to hold on to the program, and they could be tempted, right? They could meet after the meeting with this drinking newcomer, and maybe he takes them out drinking. It's quite possible they get tempted, or they get disturbed by all this disruption and they stop coming, and therefore they start drinking and they start relapsing. So So what should one do? Where do we draw the line? How does tradition 1, tradition 3, and any other thing that we have to bring into this, what do you think we should do? Any thoughts, any comments?
My name is Austin. I'm an alcoholic.
Yes.
Yeah, uh, one should think about the group, the unity of the group, and the common welfare. But I'm talking now through personal experience. It's very difficult when you're accused by some member of the group, of doing certain wrongdoings, and you want to clarify these wrongdoings, and in the process of clarifying these things, okay, there are some people who say, oh, there is a clash of personalities in the old timers, and there is this and that. So you tend to keep quiet, but at the same time your inside is urging you to clarify, because otherwise you are sort of like you are the accused, you see. So it is very difficult to stay quiet, and let the group let the common welfare go on, let the unity go on. But inside you require the clarification. Now I'm talking as an old timer also. uh, I'm accused for stupid things, like for throwing someone out of the fellowship. I mean, who am I to throw anybody out? For uh, snatching the chair from somebody else. Who am I to snatch a chair? There is a group conscience that avails snatching the chair. So there are accusations being levied. It could be a misunderstanding where with the person who is hearing it from somebody, that I threw somebody out of the group. So the quietness, the urge inside is to respond, but the maturity of the of the person is, or let the common welfare be there, let the unity remain, you are no one, let them function as a group, and things like that. So it becomes very difficult to draw a line and walk on sort of a balanced path. That's my experience.
Okay. All right. So again, yeah.
Noel.
Yeah, Noel.
Yeah, I'll give you a live example. Okay, there was this guy, and he's still a member here. One of us. His name is Mahesh. I'm saying this. I remember I was in Emirates meeting, and we were all sitting down, and Mahesh walked in fully bloody drunk here. Not just drunk, fully drunk. Kunal was present, yeah, and he
He
falls
fell
flat on
flat
his.
on his face.
He fell flat on his face in front of the chairman. The door was just opposite the chairperson. Flat on his face, and blah blah blah, so this that, abusing the meeting. And there were guys, the chairperson got up to whack him, and we all interfered, and no, don't touch him here. Everybody has the right to come into the meeting, whether he's drunk. He was making noise. Everyone wanted to throw him out. Okay, one, two guys took him outside, had a chat with him, and told him, if you if you start talking in middle of the meeting, we cannot tolerate this. So, in a nice way, not that, initially they were forcefully, somebody wanted to beat him up here, and you cannot do that here to anybody. I stood up and I said, no, nobody is going to touch him. And he came and he sat and he listened, and, he was still in between, but we have to be tolerant here, whatever it was. And ever since that day, he's sober. It's been fucking 10 years, I think, here. He's a great member of our fellowship. So you cannot throw out. There is, like Kunal was saying here, what will you do? Is a desire to stop drinking. At the same time, a group comes first, yeah? Whatever that first thing is, what you said here. Group welfare, I mean, a common welfare should come first. But these meetings are for AA members here, for alcoholics, not for a normal human being. We have to give him love and affection. This is what I believe here. I've come and said things in the classroom, and people stuck by me, and they gave me that love and affection, and made me understand. So I think that works here. I mean, this is the example that I've seen it in my eyes here. It has happened, and and it has worked, because if you had to throw him out that day and told him fuck off, and just got him out and told him, don't you ever come to the meeting, he wouldn't have been sober. Yeah? He's sober from that day because there were some guys who gave him love and affection and made him sit and, understood his thing, and they talked after that. I mean, that's how it works, I think. Yeah, this is my thing. Yeah, thanks.
So just to add to that, and thanks, let me add to that just a minute. That's a very good example, Mahesh especially. And not just Mahesh is sober more than 10 years today. In the same room, on that same day, there were two newcomers, Sean and Arzan. And both of them are sober more than 10 years today. So really, it just worked itself out perfectly. And I think it worked itself out because people intervened. And in any situation like that, there will be some people who will say, out with him. He cannot be here. He's a risk to others and he's disrupting the meeting and it won't work. And there will be some who will always come to the front and say, no, we must give him a chance. He's just one of us and we will take him out and have a chat with him and talk with him. And who knows, this is God's business and he will turn around and sit here with us and be sober again. The question sometimes comes when this happens repetitively and many, many times, and it becomes a pattern. And at that point in time, a group may have to take a decision. So on the other extreme, there have been cases where police has had to be called and legal intervention has had to be taken to remove a person who comes in and has violent, disruptive behavior. And there's another pamphlet for disruptive behavior in rooms and how we as AA groups can handle it and manage it and keep the common welfare ongoing. At the same time, do not deny if he has a desire to stop drinking, that he cannot be, of course, thrown out. But if he is, that's why tradition 1 comes before tradition 3. It is fundamental. So if the group is getting threatened, then that comes first. So keep that in your mind, even though we will try every effort to be gentle, loving, tolerant, kind. However, there is a limit. And if it becomes a situation where others are at risk or the group is going to have a big problem, then, for example, it could quite possibly be that his behavior is leading to the venue being taken away from you, the meeting place. In that case, immediate action has to be taken. We cannot allow him to continue to disrupt and risk the meeting place, because then 40 people's place goes, and that's a bigger risk. So that's just a judgment call that, and again, and I'll come to Oscar's point in a bit. Again, where does this come from? It comes from experience and some wisdom that sometimes old timers bring in, who have seen this happen, like Noel today shared an experience that happened 15 years ago. Now, those of you who are not in the room 15 years ago haven't seen this happen, do not have that understanding and that example. So where will you base your experience on? So it will be then sometimes bookish. And we'll say, so, it is difficult to manage that. Somebody, I interrupted somebody. Somebody wanted to say something just now?
Rajesh, alcoholic. I just try to steer away from controversy, right? But then when I see some of the dialogues and exchanges happening on the WhatsApp group, the Road to Sobriety, I mean, I don't want to be judgmental, but invariably, I get the feeling that, look, really, is this what we are talking about? I mean, aren't we losing the essence of having this WhatsApp group? People, getting into arguments on the WhatsApp group, and especially people, also tending to use foul language on the WhatsApp group. Yeah. Look, on one hand, you can't talk about spiritual growth, right? And on the other hand, be unaccepting of your other fellow person. Yeah, and it becomes a mockery. For me, it's like hypocrisy, right? And that's why I try my best not to post anything controversial. And I just believe, keep it simple. Like I was reading, as Bill sees it, and this is from yesterday's, where when he talks about when he saw Dr. Bob for the last time before he went in for a major operation. And that was the last time he saw him, and he said, let's not louse this up. Let's just keep it simple. That appeals to me. I think that's the true essence of the program. That's my 2 bits of wisdom. If
So some very interesting points being raised out here, and I completely identify with them, and I have been witness to them also, whether Oscar brought it up, Rajesh brought it up. And so let's talk a little bit about, and again, there is no right, a discussion is probably the best way to go about it. Let me just stimulate that discussion with some reminders. If we look at our legacies, the 3 legacies, and I'm talking about legacy 1, which is recovery, personal recovery, and that's really the 12 steps. Now, one of the reasons they say that service isn't for all doesn't mean that you or anybody else cannot do service, or is banned from service, or is not good enough for service, or we disallow them from service. No, nobody has that right. The only reason they say that service is not for everyone is because everyone has not put in place that foundation of, shall we say, personal recovery, which at least nobody's perfect, but some progress has happened where they can participate with love, kindness, tolerance, humility, kindness. If these are not the personal traits, and ego, anger, pride, self-centeredness, self-will, if these are going to be your driving thoughts when you do service, then you can well imagine we are not going to be very effective in service. We are going to be stuck on our own way of thinking. And again, the intention is always good. Even the most egotistic, arrogant, pride, self-centered alcoholic who is in service wants to do the best for AA. He doesn't want to become anything else. He believes in his heart that he's doing the best for AA. So we need to recognize that. It's just that sometimes people are in different stages of the recovery. And I'm trying to address that hypocrisy question you raised here, Rajesh. We cannot be judgmental on that. We are always judgmental, I know, but we cannot express that judgment without realizing also that when there are 15 people or 20 people sitting in a room, they are not on the same spiritual basis or the same spiritual thing, and they never will be. Even old timers who are on that day could be the biggest asshole in the room. I mean, that's we have all seen that. So yes, you will continue to see people behaving badly, if I may put it that way. And they are going to be in service, and they will do things in service that people will have a problem with and say, hey, why is he doing it like this? That's not right. That doesn't sound right. That doesn't look right. He has so many years of sobriety. How can he be doing this? So this will keep coming up, which is why we have the tradition. So we must realize that a lot of the problems that are coming in and you were talking about and we are talking about today are one basis for that is not so much as a tradition. It's more the step work and the recovery and the personal recovery and the place they are in. And we all grow from there. So that's one answer to it. We must look at it like that and be tolerant enough and allow that to happen. But we cannot let them run rampant. How do we handle that? And we'll talk about that in tradition too, because that's where group conscience comes in. As long as in tradition one we realize that unity is important, how to bring about that unity, we will talk about in the rest of the traditions. So the rest of the traditions, just like step one is about admitting that we are powerless, our life is unmanageable. That's just a huge admittance. It's just a realization. How to stay sober is in the next steps. Everything is not in one tradition, not in one step. So unity, which is the legacy, and it's also the first tradition, but it is also the legacy behind all the 12 traditions. It's at the group level, which is very important for all of us. We are really saying to each other, guys, please work on your steps so that you can be, grow spiritually and be, easier to work with each other in the unity side of things. So that's one thing that I thought I'll bring in here. I mean, I'm not really sure how to address Oscar's topic and comments at this point in time without looking at a few other things before we go there. So let's progress a little bit. And I know this is a big issue, and Oscar, you bring it up quite often, and I want you to believe that we will address it. Let's talk a little bit about the next tradition, because that's 1, 2, and 3, when they are taken together, would help a little bit. So allow me that.
Kunal, can I say something?
Sure.
Talking about how to address it, okay, my problem I'm talking about. I've addressed it, in the way that, after the ABCs, okay, right up from there, right up till the 3rd step prayer, where relieve me of bondage of self, in each and every place, I put in the word Oscar. Oscar's trying to run the whole show. Oscar's trying to do this. Oscar's trying to, and it, and maintain a perfect silence and reflect and ponder on that. And it helps, it gives you an insight as to, how to do a 10th step by taking the, the 3rd step again. Thank you.
So again, I remember I sense what you're saying. So you are using your personal program or personal recovery to deal with the situation that you are facing, and I think that's the best example you can set for everybody around. And please continue to do that. And you will always see, and we have seen, and I have been, never mind seen, I have been that young Turk, full of a lot of passion for whatever I have acquired in my time in AA, and being obnoxious. And I a person from I have done that in the newcomer meeting, and I've asked a respected senior member, old timer like Shankar, and I've asked him to stop sharing because I felt he was sharing too long for too months. And so I have done that myself, and who am I today to look back at this and say, he should not do that. So I hope I have changed, and I believe everybody will change. So if I were to engage in that situation, and that has also happened, you all have seen how sometimes old timers respond back, and that becomes very ugly. So we must, if we, whether we are old timer or new timer or mid timer, doesn't matter. But if we can all raise our own personal game and say, I'm not going to respond to that just because it feels like an attack, or I seem to have a resentment, or I feel as if I'm being targeted out here. I'm just going to let a few spiritual principles guide me. Love and tolerance is our code. Restraint of pen and tongue is what is advised. So these are things that they say because that's what we forget all the time. We do not, and we jump back into it, and then it just makes it muddy and ugly. But with time and a little bit of tolerance, I think all these things happen. We'll keep talking about this, and I know others will bring in this point. This is something that has been going on, and that's the reason we are here today as a workshop. So we continue to talk about this. We all know the Serenity Prayer. Did you know that there is this thing called Declaration of Unity? This is something that AA and every member of AA has declared. It's something we stand for. We owe to AA's future to place our common welfare first, to keep our fellowship united, and for on AA unity depends our lives and the lives of those to come. I don't remember who said it. I don't think it was Bill W., but somebody very important on Old Timer in AA once said, we are not here to keep the meeting rooms open for you and me. We are not here to keep the meeting rooms open for the newcomer who still hasn't come. We are here to keep the meeting rooms open for the alcoholic who has not yet been born. Think about it. 50 years from now, 30 years from now, the alcoholics who have not yet been born, they need to find AA. And that's the long-term vision that has been created for us. This unity is that important. We cannot allow this to get destroyed in any way. So if all of us realize this, if all of us keep this in mind, even though we might have arguments and debates, at some point in time, this will rise above it. And tradition 2 is really the beautiful place where this happens. And I think it's important to look at tradition 2 very, very, so keep, for me, tradition 1 and 2 at any given time, just like steps 1 and 2 at any given time are the fundamental of any recovery program. This is the fundamental. And this addresses a little bit around what Guru brought up, that he needs to understand how to deal with it in his life. Where does this come from? So let's look at this little picture out here. And one of the best things I like about the traditions is the illustrated guide to the traditions, all of you. And I'll just put some of this in the group. It's really a nice way of, it's here. So this is the illustrated version. It's available downloadable. I'll share it also. If you look at the dialogue that is happening out here, you know, it says, now that I've been elected secretary, I'll show this group some real leadership. There is only one way to do it, and I'll tell you what it is. Furthermore, we'll take our money and we'll establish a fund and I will manage it. And we start taking on this personality and we start taking on this leadership role, and that's fine. We want leadership. That's line, and we say, hey, this is now becoming my will, not God's will. It is my will, not the group's will. And suddenly, now the problem here sometimes that happens is that another dominant personality in the group will stand up and say, down boy. And of course, that's a personality clash. Now that person could be an old timer saying it to a new timer, or it could be and in case the old timer is doing the previous behavior, then it could actually be the younger members who are now attacking the old timer and saying, hey, down boy. But the moment it becomes person to person or a group of people versus a group of people, we have a problem. It'll be ugly. The only thing that we can talk about is group conscience. It has to be the group conscience which cuts us down to size, which reminds us that, and we talked a little bit about last time around how do we get group conscience? What is group conscience? And then once we see that, we need to start working together. So let's talk a little bit about group conscience. And is there any thoughts around it, especially after we talked about it last time, in these kind of situations that we are talking about? Like, for example, some of the things that Oscar brought up, are there things that should be raised at a business meeting? Or are there things that should be right in there if comment there? If that comment has happened in a WhatsApp group, is it supposed to be responded to inside the WhatsApp group, or should we bring it to the business meeting? If it is between two people, should it even be something that the business meeting should talk about? Or should we just, let these two guys thrash it out between them and their sponsors or whatever? So there's a lot of stuff that can go on out here. So everything doesn't have to become group conscience. Only the things that matter to the group should come for the group conscience. So let's think a little bit around this and let's spend a few minutes on, inviting some comments based on what I just shared, based on the fact that we have unity, common welfare. We also have group conscience, and we need to have, what is tradition 2? Let's read it for a minute. For our group purpose, there is only one ultimate authority. Nobody else has authority. There is only one authority. And that authority is a loving God. But how do we know? What does he want? What does loving God want? How do we hear his voice? His voice is expressed to us through a group conscience. Group conscience, again, if I remind you from the last time, has to be informed group conscience, not just a vote. Everybody lays out the whole facts of the matter, brings in the experience that is relevant, and then discussion happens, and then voting, if required, happens. And we always look for substantial unanimity rather than a simple majority. That's how a group conscience is taken. And once group conscience is taken, everybody should apply it. Even the person who opposed it, once he sees, hey, the group conscience is something else, then it should. He cannot, oh, the group decided that, but I didn't. So I'm going to stay opposing to this position while you guys do what you like. I can't change it, but I'm a reluctant observer. I'm sorry, but I don't agree with this. That is breaking tradition 1. That is basically saying, therefore, I'm not unified with you guys. I'm not in unity with you. Even though our tradition 2 says that God has spoken. So we are actually going against the will of God, that means, not against a group of people. So this realization has to come from an understanding of the traditions. I'll stop here and I'll just invite you guys to come in, share, comment, whatever.
My name is Oscar and I'm an alcoholic. In my experience, group conscience is usually taken at business meetings.
Yeah.
And, from my observance, I'm talking now about R2S. From my observance, there's usually this is previously, there's usually no agenda for the business meeting. There is a business, 2, 3, 4 members are there. So, a topic comes out, probably, it's put on some forum, and it's spoken about the next time. And again, at the next meeting, there are 2, 3, and a group conscience is taken. And then the people, after about 6 months, realize that this was the group conscience at a business meeting. And they bring it up that this is not supposed to be the group conscience. So it is very imperative, about the past, leave it aside. Very imperative that we have an agenda, that the whatever the points on the agenda are well thrashed out in the business meeting, and a group conscience is derived. And as Noel posted the other day, that we have some sort of a forum where we store these business meetings things, so that once a group conscience is taken, then if I like it, if I don't like it, if I was there for the meeting, if I wasn't there for the meeting, it becomes my duty to abide by the group conscience. So that's my experience I want to share. Thank you.
Thanks.
My name is
I have a
Harish.
question.
Go ahead, Noel.
Go on, Harish. Okay, let me ask the question. Just this thing, Kunal. Now, when we say group conscience and, there are members, okay, now, like Oscar said, 4 members and they take a decision. If I don't go for a meeting for 6 months or 1 year or whatever, and only four guys, since they're having a business meeting, whatever it is, so they decide on whatever the problem is and they take a decision. So I think it becomes my responsibility, as I'm not going for the meeting and I'm not attending, or suppose you have 20 people, only 5 attend, and there is a agenda which needs to be taken decision upon. So those 5 will take the decision. So I think when it comes to that, that means I am wrong here, because I'm not attending the meeting by being a member of the fellowship. Then I have no right to fucking complain. I think when it comes to that, isn't it? I mean, this is for
I
me
will answer that.
personally. Okay, I know personally, I feel I should just accept that, like Oscar also said, I have to accept that whatever the decision taken by those 4 members, because there was a problem, they reported to the meeting and it took a decision. Anyway,
I will
I think it
explain that.
works
I will
like that, right? Yeah.
elaborate on that.
Kunal, can
Go
I
ahead, Harish.
can I
Harish, go
just
ahead.
suggest something?
Yeah, sure.
Kunal, is it not our responsibility to consciously go to all these business meetings, being the group members?
I will answer that also. Let me just hear from Harish what he has to say.
Okay, my name is Harish and I'm an alcoholic. This is purely my observation. Okay, I am not speaking on behalf of anybody, because we are all alcoholics. We have a mind of our own and we can presume things. So maybe I'm wrong, but this is just my observation. I've been in the program with this group for over 5 years now. So when I joined in, when it was my first year of sobriety, I remember getting emails on the minutes of the meetings and getting an information on email. Now, whether I read that email or no, that was my problem. But it was documented and it was there. Whatever the business meeting took place, what was discussed or whatever group purchase was there, it used to be there. Then all of a sudden, one fine day, it just stopped. I do not know the reason. I did not bother to find out the reason, but this is what actually happened. Okay, now this is what was my observation in the past. Now coming to the present situation, where we have all been in lockdown and suddenly we are having Zoom meetings and I see a lot of participation, lot of interest and lot of people coming up and showing interest, everybody. So I've realized one thing, that we all are united, irrespective of having our different approach to different situations, but I could feel that we are all there for the sake of the group and sake of ourselves. Having said that, we've already started circulating the agenda and circulating the minutes and all. It is just that probably there are no proper guidelines which all members are aware of. And like Noel just brought up this point. Even I would say that if I don't come for a meeting for 2, 3, 4 months and 6 months, and suddenly I come back after 6 months, I don't think I have a right to challenge the group conscious or even talk about it, because I have lost that right. Honestly, if I am involved with the group, I should be there to understand everything and be in the flow. But as a member, I cannot just use this privilege that, oh, suddenly I'm not a part of a business group and I just come and talk about the group conscious for the heck of it. I fail to understand. And also my last question, Kunal, is that, see, I am very new. The program is very old. The meetings have been going on. Groups have been working independently for many, many years all over the world. I'm sure there would be a precedence of such situations, because this is not something which is uncommon that is happening only in R2S group. This must have happened in many, many groups. So, I was reading an interesting article on some court case going on. And they always refer in so-and-so year, so-and-so date, case between case and case, this was the judgment. So it at least gives you an idea that, boss, I am not alone in my thought processes. And my last observation has been that even if there is a situation in the group and there is a disagreement or there is something that is to be discussed and all, which has to be brought up in the business meeting, unfortunately, the time that we have got for the business meeting and the number of points to cover does not give us enough ground to resolve that so that we can move on. And then what happens is, because a business meeting takes place only after a month, we are alcoholics. I am carrying this with me because I have not received the solution and have to wait now for another month to get to the solution of this. And then the things continue in my mind and I start thinking differently. Noel is laughing. Noel, don't laugh, Daddy. This is what happens to me. I'm talking about me. So what are the guidelines for this and how do we, I put it in a very simple way. Sometimes I ask a simple question. I may be unaware. Please, you have to trust me as an alcoholic that I'm asking this sincerely. But sometimes people don't want to answer that and they make it a joke and then it goes to the next level. So how do we, what should an alcoholic do? What should I do in this situation? Sorry about the question.
Okay, one quick one for Harish. Okay, patience and tolerance is the core of our disease. Yeah, so learn. We are teaching you patience and tolerance. So keep quiet till the next business meeting.
Thank you, Noel. I'm learning.
Also, don't drink in the meantime. That's one thing you can do. Okay, you guys have given me a lot of things to talk, and that's lovely because this can stimulate conversation for the next 15-20 minutes. Let's just take a few things that are simple things first. Guru brought up responsibility of the home group members. So yeah, let's go just back and remind ourselves we are home group members, and one of the responsibilities when we accept and adopt a home group and join a home group is certainly to participate in its group conscience and business meetings. So if you are an honorable group member, your responsibility is certainly to attend meetings, business meetings, and participate in the group conscience. Make yourself available for service. Read the minutes as they are circulated, but add your items of concern to the agenda as and when it is asked for. So yeah, otherwise you are not performing your role as a home group member, and that's fine. Nobody's going to deny you anything. You can still come and vote. If you are coming regularly, you can still vote. So, if you are not there, your vote will not be counted anyway. So that's one part. So definitely let's remind ourselves as home group members, we definitely have a commitment and a responsibility to participate in the matters that affect the group and should lend our voice to it. One. Second was a very interesting thing that Noel brought up about, if 4 people are sitting in a business meeting and they decide something. Oscar also talked about this. And then, a few days later or a few months later, somebody said, hey, I don't agree with this decision. So let's talk a little bit about guidelines behind what group business meeting should be. So one of the main simple things about a business meeting should be the definition of something called quorum. Unless there is a quorum, the business meeting is not valid. It cannot be held. And therefore that's in guidelines. We define our own guideline, but we can take from other guidelines. For example, a quorum could be 2 things. A quorum is not complete unless 50% of the trusted servants of that group are present in the business meeting. So for example, you have your secretary, you have your chair, you have your treasurer, you have your GSR, you have your alt GSR, you have your literature secretary, you have your refreshment secretary, and you may have somebody called the greeter. These are the 8 common positions that any large group has. If 4 out of these people are not there, at least the group conscience, the business meeting should not be, it should be cancelled. It should be postponed. It should be, waived to the next meeting. Quorum was not complete. So only 3 are there. If less than 3 are there, we should not even talk about it. Now, it is quite possible 10 members land up and only 3 trusted servants land up. So 5 trusted servants are missing. So criteria number 1 of quorum is not met, which means 50% of the trusted servants are not there. However, 10 other regular home group members have come for the business meeting. So then you can have a criteria number 2, saying that if at least 10 home group members are present, or 12 or 8, depending on how big your group is and how active your business meetings are, how much you believe is a fair number that the group can live with. That's again should be defined in the guidelines. Then quorum is established. So these are the 2 ways quorum is established. Now, if quorum is established and a group conscience is taken, then that group conscience should stand. It should definitely be, as Noel was saying, respected by the rest of the group for a substantial period of time. It should not be changed at the next group conscience, just because more people came in and vote changed. Group conscience, we have to understand again, group conscience is not your decision and my decision. It is the ultimate authority of a loving God expressed in our groups. This is God's decision. It's not my decision or your decision. So we can't just keep playing around with it. But there are 2 reasons or 2 circumstances under which a group conscience should be changed. And that's usually when this decision is affecting our primary purpose. That means it is either restricting us or blocking us from carrying out our message to the still suffering alcoholic. In some way, it is compromising that capability, or it is, affecting newcomers, or so whatever decision we have taken, if it is seen as compromising the primary purpose of the group, then it should be immediately reversed. And of course, remember, informed group conscience. So somebody has to present some data, some reasons, some justification for this, saying this is happening because of this decision. And since we all believe and love AA, of course that group conscience will be changed. It's not going to be a personal decision. Oh, he decided this, so I'm fighting this. It should never be like that. The other reason why a group conscience should be changed is if circumstances change. It could be venue related. It could be legal related. It could be, anything. It just needs to be, again, circumstances do not allow us to do this anymore. For example, the meeting might be a smoking meeting. And, all these years it's been a smoking meeting. And suddenly the law from the St. Mary's Church comes and says, rooms cannot be smoking anymore. You cannot say, my group conscience is saying it's a smoking meeting. Why did you change the group conscience? Circumstances have changed. The law, venue has given us new guidelines. So these are the 2 reasons why a group conscience should be changed, reversed, or whatever, or modified. Not at the whim of somebody else who felt very strongly about some matter. If he does feel so strongly about some matter, and if he does believe there is grounds for it, it will be discussed. Of course, you can discuss it. But I am assuming group conscience will stand, because there was a reason why the previous group conscience should be taken. So again, if we believe in unity, we will not do this. We will keep it going. And if we believe in tradition too, we will understand that group conscience is not something that is against me. It is, I have to believe in it myself. So that's part of the quorum. I think what agenda and minutes, I think we are doing it pretty well nowadays. It may not have been perfect in the past, for sure. And thanks to Harish and his efforts and all you guys supporting him. The minutes and the agendas are becoming regular, and I am hoping that he can store it somewhere. We have created a drive already. We'll put it up there, and so on and so forth. I will talk a little bit about something else. Yes, Chandra.
Kunal, Chandra alcoholic. I want to add, maybe my ignorance. What you said about quorum. My understanding is that the home group, whether in the home group level or in the intergroup level, it is already informed the agenda and the date of, group conscious meeting or intergroup meeting. And the quorum is taken from the members who were present at that particular time.
Yes. Yes, of course.
It should be 15 members, all the members should be there, then only the 2/3 and it comes. That comes, the members who are present at that time, they will take the quorum, 2/3, or when the voting or anything comes.
No, I would, so let me clarify what you're saying. So let me give you a situation. Let's say the home group is 40 members, home group, 40 members, kind of registered, so to say, like they're part of the WhatsApp business group also. So the 40 members. Out of that, we have, say, 7, we have trusted servants who are part of the thing. And our observation has been that on any given business meeting, 15, 18 people are usually attending out of the 40. Okay, so that's the pattern. Now, on one particular business meeting, let's say 2 trusted servants and 3 other group members land up. So total of 5.
Okay.
And an important decision like changing the timing of the meeting and the format of the meeting is being discussed, which affects all 40 members. And they decide to change the format and change the time. Let's say that's the decision the 5 of them took. Would you say that quorum has been met? And it was unanimous. Let's even go to the extent of saying all those 5 agreed on it unanimously. Would you say that's a group conscience?
No, but it is already informed to the members that such and such it is happening.
2 weeks notice was given. 2 weeks notice was given. Agenda was circulated. Reminders were sent, but 5 people turned up.
Yeah. So that's a complicated thing you are asking. But the thing is that, as you said before, it's the responsibility of the members to be present at that time.
They failed this time. They failed to meet their responsibility. Is it still a group conscience? Is it still a group conscience? I don't know the answer. I'm asking you.
Yes, we have a valid reason to members to tell them that we already informed you such and such date a group conscious meeting is happening. You didn't turn up. We took a decision. Now you are complaining outside. We couldn't come. So I am outside.
Chandra, very good point. My question is only this. 5 people is a representation of we. That's all. Everything else you're saying is absolutely taken on board. And I'm completely, and again, I'm not saying you're wrong. I am saying, let's open it up to the group. What do others think? In the scenario that I have described, notice was given, agenda was circulated, meeting minutes were highlighted, reminders were sent. We have 7 or 8 trusted servants, office bearers. We have about 40 people who are regular members of the business, home group members, but all of them never show up, never does. About 18, 20 usually show up. But on this particular business meeting, 5 turned up and they took a decision regarding something important. What do you all think? And it was taken because it was a group conscience. Now keep in mind tradition 1 and tradition 2, unity and group conscience. Any thoughts? Chandra says it is a group conscience. He's not.
My name's Oscar and I'm an alcoholic. I think Chandra has a point over there. Depending on what the quorum is set upon, whether the quorum is set upon previously or the quorum is set upon on the day of the business meeting. So I really don't know, but there's a point over there.
No, what I think quorum, Chandra, when you say quorum is set on that day, it's not quorum. What you're really saying is, how do we achieve substantial unanimity or substantial, how do we take a vote? What is the approval process for the vote? Is 4 out of 5 okay? Is 3 out of 2, is a simple majority okay? Or is substantial unanimity okay? Quorum is number of people attending, technically speaking.
Yeah.
You are saying any number is a quorum, as long as they are home group members.
Santosh, can I?
Yeah, sure, Santosh.
Okay, so I fully, I feel that it's reasonable that what Kunal says is right. Why? Because see, we don't have a list of total number of members. That's what I understanding. So the fixing of the quota, the quorum, like other membership meetings or something. Okay, 1/3 of these, that, and all people. What Kunal suggests is the percentage of the trusted servants, and if that also doesn't meet the next meeting, even if the quorum is not there, also we consider it as a business meeting. That is just generally we used to do in other meetings. So
Okay.
as we don't have a list of members, total number of members of the home group, we don't know how many members are there. We know each other, but there is not a proper list of numbers. I feel the Kunal suggested that a percentage of the trusted servants can form a quorum.
So
And
we
if
do
they are
have a
not
list,
present,
Santosh. Santosh, just to clarify, an
Yeah.
example I'm going to give here is for WhatsApp. There are 17 names. They have raised their hands and they have said, I am a home group member of this group and I am going to be participating. So we have names.
Kunal,
Can I come in?
They don't all come always, but they are there.
Kunal, can I come in?
Who's that?
Chandra here. See, this is I'm talking about the larger forum. I was a delegate of the GSO India in 2003 to 2006.
Yeah.
At that time, the quorum was mandatory to have any, delegates meeting. Total number of 67 out of 2-3 should be there. So few times we couldn't have any agenda to be discussed because of the number of delegates present. Then it has taken such a agenda, conference advisory action that the quorum should be the number of members, and it should be 2/3 from the number of members present at that time, number of delegates present at that time. That was one experience. It has changed in such a way. GSO India now it works in such a way. Whether all the delegates come or not doesn't matter. The number of delegates present and 2/3 when it comes to the voting pattern.
Completely agree. And I think at a GSO level, at a conference level, I think that is a very valid point because it is it's an event. And it cannot be, waived next month we'll do this. So therefore, there has to be a different set of guidelines that apply to conference events where decision making is a 4-day event. It's not a small thing. However, a business meeting of a group is a little different matter, and we can allow some flexibility. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because from the group member, like Oscar, it came up, 4 members met, took a decision, then a few months later, somebody else came and changed it. Was that right? Was that wrong? What should we do about it? My suggestion to the group here, to this workshop participants here, is that maybe we can look at guidelines which can help us make this a little bit more acceptable across the board without debating and arguing just because we don't like the decision. It becomes spiritual rather than principle based, rather than personality based. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, Harish,
Yeah.
Harish, I'll call.
Okay, Harish.
Just an observation now. Now here we are discussing a very important guidelines that one should follow for a business meeting or how things should place for a group. The total number of participants over here are only 10. Okay, today. So 90% of our group is not present for this discussion. So now based on this, let's say we form a guideline. Okay, then how we can.
We are not going to be doing that, Harish. This is not a business meeting of the group. We are not going to make any guidelines out here. We are just learning and some experience. Okay. Take this into the business meeting.
So let me continue. Okay, I mean, what I mean to say is, for a group, there should be some guidelines, no? Because the business meetings have been in place for many years. Group meetings have been in place for many years. There should be some legacy given forward that this is how it has worked successfully in the past, and this is what one should do. If it is already there, it should have been there according to me, then this kind of a discussion would not be warranted for, because the questions that I have, or Oscar has, or Noel has, or Rajesh has, or anybody has, why these questions to come up? Because if this program is existing for 50 plus, 70 plus years, and all this is a legacy, there should be something to be given to us as a legacy to understand how to carry this forward.
So this is the time for some of us to hide under the table. So please excuse us.
Okay.
You are quite right.
I'm Noel. I'm an alcoholic. I'll come in. Each group is autonomous. Okay. Firstly, we make our own decisions to safeguard the group. So this is a very good question that has come up. We'll make guidelines for our group, like what is the quorum should be. We'll put this in the business meeting and we'll vote for it. And then so that we'll set an agenda, like, if there are secretaries and GSOs, whatever, 6, 7 guys who are there, if so many guys are not present, they cannot take a decision what is taken. So we can set up this. Maybe we are learning from this. Yeah, this is a good thing that's come up. Very good. So next time, no 4 people will take a decision. Maybe we need those 2/3 majority. Why not we add this to a minutes of meeting, and then we'll discuss and we'll take a decision on that. Yeah. So it's something to learn. Yeah. I mean, it's great. But I just want another thing, Kunal. Is there anything like the quorum? What is this quorum? I mean, it's like you said earlier.
It's
this
a
is a
number
good
of
thing
people.
what you're saying. 2/3 of
It's just
number
a number
of people. It's like, okay,
number
we are
of
20.
people who make up
They
a
shouldn't
body
be.
that can take a decision.
Yeah. So like you said, there should be a secretary and the chairperson. So we have
I'm
3
giving you an
groups.
example. I'm giving you an example that
Yeah,
a certain
example.
number
Yeah.
of the
So,
trusted servants should be there and a certain home group number should be there. It should be a basic
so is
number.
that trusted servant what you said, is that in our tradition, like this should be there, or this written somewhere?
No,
Just
no, it is
so
not
we can make this
explicitly
as a
written.
guideline.
Exactly, it's a
Yeah,
guideline.
so we can make this as a guideline for our group. I mean, there are different things for
We
different
could,
groups here.
we
We
could,
can,
and
or we can vote on the other way around. It's like, okay, so many members are there, we agree to that. Either one.
look.
So this is a good thing. Thanks.
I can see Praveen has unmuted his mic, so I know where this is going a little bit. But before Praveen jumps into this thing, I want to say a couple of things out here. And addressing a little bit on what Harish also said. You are right. We don't necessarily want to make guidelines for the sake of making guidelines. We only make guidelines when they are needed. All this while, for the last 12 years that I've been in part of Road to Sobriety Group and been part of being here in Dubai, a few, shall we say, 5, 6 names would always be there available. They had the shared experience between them, who were taking care of the trusted service positions and the service work. And they had a kind of a common understanding of these guidelines in a way, orally, mentally, they kind of agreed with each other. That's
Voice is breaking, Kunal.
Oh, okay. So it was going on quite smoothly till it is not going on smoothly. And now suddenly we are finding disagreement and a new breed of service, trusted servants are coming into the place. A new generation has come in and they are seeking answers and they are not satisfied with the answers given to them by the ones who are in place. And that's great. That's why I think it's time for us to have guidelines. And that's why I think this has started this whole debate and discussion. And I think now it is time to have guidelines. Otherwise, it would have seemed like, oh, we are imposing these rules. Why? What's the point? Why can't we just keep it going simply? But now it is not going simply. It is, we are having problems. So maybe it's time to think about it. Yeah, Praveen, your turn.
Yeah, actually, the very first part that you mentioned was absolutely right. That you need to have a quorum. And those guys who are at the meeting and take the call and the agreement, that stands good. But again, like Oscar pointed out or Noel pointed out, we don't have adequate members coming to business meetings, and not everybody agrees. And also something else you mentioned about majority. You may have 10 guys in the quorum, simple majority wins. If 6 say yes and 4 say no, it's a yes. So I think those are the few guidelines which probably we got to set, and that's what we used to have earlier as well. Maximum in the room, put your hands up, yes or no, and call taken.
Just to quickly respond to that, Praveen, there's a risk to that. And I'll say why. Because you are quite right, and it can be done. And many groups do it. The recommended, again and again through the concepts you will see this coming up, is that AA recommends substantial unanimity. What is substantial unanimity is not defined. Some people say 80%.
True.
But simple majority is usually not recommended because that's sometimes conflict. Again, it matters affecting AA as a whole, sensitive nature matters. We must not proceed hastily. We must go around say. But simple things can be taken in simple majority. So it's kind of a judgment call here.
Can I add there, Kunal?
Yeah, sure,
can I add there?
Sure.
In the past, and I'm sure you're aware of this, Oscar is aware of this, Noel is aware of this. we had some very strong characters who, when at a business meeting a decision was not taken, then they would try and poach members outside the meetings and try and convince them to support their idea and blah 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 blah, all that stuff, right? So don't you see that? No, if we again, it's just my opinion. If we try to have, like, say, 80% or 70%, then we are probably opening some other political views outside the meetings to try and coax members like your BJP and Congress.
I think it's a good time to talk about something which I have on my mind for a while. Let's leave it there. We are not taking decisions here. We are having a discussion. I think these points of view are absolutely valid. Rajesh, you have raised your hand for something?
Thank you, Praveen, for bringing in that note of humor into the proceedings. Much required. Absolutely. Just one observation from my side. Look, we talk about trusted servants, right? And the criteria for people actually being nominated to represent at the business meetings. Now, the question is a little strange, okay? Now, a person could be 10 years sober, right? But his level of sobriety, or if I may say spiritual awareness, may be akin or similar to that person who's having probably 7 months or 1 year sobriety. Then would that become would he be considered one of the pillar stones to represent, a group conscious in a business meeting? I mean, are we looking at levels of sobriety? Are we looking at quantity, or are we looking at quality here, right? So, I mean, look, it's a pure observation from my side, nothing more than that.
Okay, so it's not that complicated. First of all,
but sorry for interrupting, but before you answer that, how do you measure the level of sobriety spiritually versus the number of, what is the yardstick?
Yeah, so just you'll understand this when I say it's a very simple thing. It's not that complicated, Rajesh, because what we are really saying out here is not 10 years of sobriety, 20 years of sobriety, or even 5 years of sobriety. We are just saying 6 months and below and above, 1 year or maximum 2 years in the case of a treasurer. Let's say 1 year. 1 year. Anybody who is sober for more than 1 year is usually eligible for service at pretty much every level of AA. Maybe not at, Marka level where we say 2 years. So now everybody nearly qualifies except a newcomer. So newcomer, we are just saying, hey, listen, just kind of stabilize a little bit, learn a little bit more, grow your personal recovery, the foundation, the steps, do that as fit, and then come into service. And otherwise do unstructured service. Nobody has any. So that's question number one. So it's not like 10 years versus 1 year. It is all 1 year and above. The pool is big. And therefore, the only person who decides is actually you and me and the guy next to you. It is our vote which is going to put him in place. You will decide. And I think we could talk a little bit around the election nomination process also, because that's where some of these things get ironed out. So let's talk a little bit about that. A typical nomination in a group happens, in a group level we are talking, not beyond the service structure, just the group level. So we're talking about secretary, chairperson, treasurer, literature secretary, GSR, 5, 6, 8 positions maximum. A nomination is usually invited on the floor of the business meeting saying, hey, this position is open. Would anybody like to do this service? Harish says, I would like to do this service. So the next question is, Harish, do you qualify? Which means, are you at least 1 year sober? Yes, I am qualified. The next question usually should be, does anybody second Harish? Because a nomination should usually be seconded by at least one other person who believes Harish is fit for the job. So Noel says, I second him. Now he's a candidate. The second question that should be asked is there anybody else who would like to be of service? Now, Rajesh, you believe you can do a better job than Harish. You sometimes may have, I don't think Harish is a good person for this job for some reason. I want to do this. So Rajesh raises his hand. Rajesh, I would like to do this service. So, is anybody like to second Rajesh? Santosh says, I second Rajesh. Now, he may do this for 2 reasons. One is he believes there should be, opportunity for 2 people. Second reason could be he believes you are a better person. Third reason could be he doesn't believe Harish is a good person. So whatever reason, he seconds you. For example, let's say nobody seconds you. So that means the group somewhere believes you are not fit for it at this time, on this day, for this position. Nothing personal, just for this position. Or the group feels Harish is good enough. I think we should give him a chance. So, you know, something is happening out here. There is a conscience being created without a conscience being created directly. Now, suppose you do get nominated and Harish gets nominated. Both of you are seconded. Both of you are qualified. A third person, again, the question has to be asked. Is there anybody else? Because you have to ask everybody till nobody is left. There are two candidates. Then, please, Harish, would you like to tell us about your service experience or what you have? So he should say something, a couple of words, or something to say. No, I would like to, because same to you. Based upon that, the chairperson could ask the group. No, I'm making this very complicated. I understand that, but I'm just saying this is how big groups do their work. I'm not saying we have to do it like this, but the theory behind this is this. Anybody can then ask the candidate a question. They can ask, for example, Harish, in your previous position as the literature secretary, I have a question issue. You were not on time with your reports, and you know we were not very sure what happened to the stock of literature. Could you please make me comfortable? Again, we do this with love, not accusation, but we believe the common welfare of the group comes first. So, you know, we are doing all this from there. Why are you laughing, Oscar? And we do this. So Harish has to either give us a good answer.
You do this with love, not accusation.
Yes. And so Harish can either give a satisfactory answer or not, depends on that. So anyway, question answer session over, you maybe ask something. And then both the candidates are usually asked to leave the room and a vote takes place. And all those in favor of Harish say yes, all those in favor of Harish, against Harish say no. And then you basically do the election and whoever wins, wins. And you come back and you know, congratulate the person who wins and you thank the other person for his willingness to be of service and hope that he will have a chance again. So that's how the process works. Within this process, it's all sorted out. All the questions you asked and how it should be done, any previous past issues with the person can come up. If the guy is seen as taking up all those service positions again and again and again, it can be addressed there and then. So that's, if we keep doing, again, I'm saying, you know, we don't put in guidelines because we have to, we do them because we need to. So that's one question I think I've answered. I hope some of those clarifications are in place. Anybody wants to add to that or comment on that?
Yeah, thanks. I think it's pretty, you know, a seamless process, at least it appears. Thanks for responding.
Okay. Now, again, we don't want to overcomplicate things. So my suggestion would be, or experience has been that important positions like secretary of the meeting and the chairperson of the meeting and the GSR and the treasurer, these three positions should be done methodically. They should be done with group conscience because we don't want to be in a position where the common welfare of the group suffers. GSR is a very important position. Treasurer is a custodian of the money, and the secretary chairperson is responsible for the environment of the whole meeting. So these are important positions. Other positions, literature, refreshments, you know, any other position that we create, greeter, these should be reserved for those who are new to service and given newcomers and younger members a chance to be part of the service structure so that they grow. And they can be always helped and supported. So that's how usually groups function.
Okay. I'm Noel. Can I come in?
Yeah.
Yeah, just, you know, Rajesh's question, you know, like he said, 10 years sober and 3 months sober, 7 months sober. You know, it doesn't matter. You know, there are people, I'm just sharing my experience. Yeah, there are people who are silent workers, who go out of their way. You might not see them in the groups doing a lot of work or whatever, but outside the groups, man, they are in all rehabs and, you know, checking out with people and phoning them quietly. So really, I don't know. There are so many guys that I know practically, you know, I'm telling you this truth. They do much more work than guy like me. Yeah, I may come and jabber in the meeting, "Arey yaar, aisa karo, waisa karo," and big bol bachan. But I'm not doing any big work, man. There are silent workers who have done. So the judgment about who has got better sobriety or doesn't have sobriety, it's on individual basis here. It comes in the meetings. I can share great stuff here. I can give you a whole lecture about spirituality, in the meetings. But am I doing the work? It's outside to judge. And I'll say honestly, in this meeting, our group, I had two characters, and I always say this. I take the names, Harry and Tom. Yeah, Harry would do. Everybody talks about Harry. Okay, he's done the best 12 stepper ever you'll ever get. But he had his faults here somewhere down the lane. The same time, Tom, the great orator, nobody could beat him here. So Harry was a 12 stepper who could go out, maybe not an orator, but Tom could be the orator. But at the same time, Tom also helped so many people that even I use his term sometimes. The day you start looking into the mirror, he put those things into my head. There are something that I've learned. Then you're with you. About the God thing. It's I don't know, yeah. I don't know how to say this, but this is the way it works. It's for me to take what is there from the people here. Thanks.
So I guess it's okay if they're dead. We can bring them on.
Kunal, can I come in?
Yeah, go ahead.
Kunal, well, Chandra here. Yeah,
Oscar first, and then Chandra. Chandra, let Oscar come in. Then after that. Yeah, Oscar.
Did I put my hand up?
Oh, I thought you were saying something. Sorry, Chandra, go ahead.
No.
It was you.
Thanks, Kunal. What I understand is the election is the last resort. The group has to select a member to the chairperson. We should resort to the last thing, the election. The group conscious, this person should do the chairperson or the literature secretary, treasurer. That unanimous, somehow we have to come to that level. That is my understanding. When the election, and then somebody said that just now Noel said something like that. See, in our this thing, Bill Wilson has written a very beautiful article. Leadership, that is one of the quality needed rather than the quality and quantity of sobriety. A person who is doing a big stepper cannot be a chairperson. He'll be 100% spiritual. Somebody goes on talking. He may say, let him talk. Other person won't get time. If a leader is there, he will immediately stop. The time is up. Such qualities are needed in a group level. Thank you.
And that's a very good point. And we will talk about leadership in one of the concepts, and that will come up quite clearly out there. Leadership is a very valuable characteristic that AA needs. Otherwise, the word of AA cannot go out there. Yeah, anybody else?
Are we getting to at a group level? Will we be able to now put the guidelines after all these discussions that we are having, and will it be all right to make a guideline for the group at the group level so that things get clarified for the future?
So, good point. And I want to address a couple of things you brought up earlier, Harish. A little to do with the time that we have in business meetings and how do we handle all these multiple agenda items and why can't we discuss them? So, let me throw some light. And Chandra, by the way, I really appreciate your coming in, and I want you to continue doing that because I do not have a full picture on this. You have some amazing experience at the GSL level, so please support me on this. As I keep talking now about, I'm going to go into Robert's rules, and I'm going to talk into some sharing session side of things. So Harish, you are right. A business meeting at a group level, at least, should be reserved for some discussion on important matters and mainly decision making. It should be, agenda items should be well defined, and at least now we have reached a space where we have a rolling agenda, and therefore we are pretty clear on what's going to be discussed next time. You want to add something, go ahead. If we have time, we'll discuss it this business meeting or it goes to the next business meeting. So that's kind of rolling now, and that's a great place we are. So it's usually decision time. Now, how do we take decisions? So I'm going to go into something called Robert's rules, which is on your screen right now. But before I do that, let me also address that there are sometimes some big areas of discussion that take up a lot of time, and they are important. You can't just ignore them. You can't take a decision immediately. So sometimes what our legacies or traditions advise us, concepts and traditions advise us, and there is some sharing, or you can create a team of people who can be given a subject and say, hey, listen, you 3-4 or any volunteers to discuss this important topic, please take this matter and 3-4 of you meet offline between the few of you, maybe take a couple of weeks or do 2 or 3 meetings and come back with your recommendations for the group to consider at the next business meeting. This is not something we can discuss in the business meeting. Now you can also throw it open to the group members and say, these guys are going to be there. Anybody wants to join them and have some voice in it, please join them for that meeting. So it becomes a dedicated matter meeting. It becomes a very specific issue. An example could be guidelines for the group. Now, guidelines for the group cannot be discussed at the business meeting. I mean, you cannot make the guidelines for the business meeting, for the group in the business meeting. It takes too much time. There are too many types of guidelines. So you create a little committee and you might say, hey, so the group conscience decision would be to create a committee to discuss the guidelines. Step one. And then ask for volunteers or who can do that. So say 4 or 5 people agree to be part of this, and that decision is voted for in the business meeting, and they are given the task of creating the guidelines, drafting the guidelines. So they finish. After they finish, they should circulate those guidelines amongst the group members, invite an openness and discussion, comments, thoughts, whatever, invite, and suppose they are finally ready with their guidelines, and they believe there is some unanimity on it. They can then come back at the next business meeting, insert an agenda item saying approval of guidelines to be decided. Now, that's another decision that can be taken, and hopefully by that time, most group members have already seen the guidelines on some other discussion forum. And therefore, only decision is taken at the business meeting. If not, it can be kept, for the next meeting and said, okay, there seems to be a lot of argument around 2-3 points on the guidelines. Please continue your work and meet offline and come back with unanimity so that the group can again vote. That's how that's what, and that's up to the person to sometimes say, hey, this matter, we cannot take a decision on it right now. Either we postpone it to the next business meeting and some more information is shared between members, or a committee or a small team can be created who actually deep dive into this, solve it, and come back to the group conscience meeting with their recommendation. So that's one way of doing it, and making sure that the agenda is covered and decisions are taken. Yeah, Harish?
Can I interrupt on this, Kunal?
Sure, I'm finished.
See, when you say that one of the ways of doing is that there could be some subjects that require a longer duration of discussion and get to the unanimity, and then that's why it is suggested that these guys meet offline and get together and come. Yeah. Without naming anybody in the group and all, this has been my experience in the past, that there was a subject that was to be discussed offline, but people already have differences and such people refuse to get to that, and so the matter lingers on. That's why, how does a business meeting bring closure to such issues?
Okay, so just again, without naming names, as you very nicely put it, the matter that I think you are referring to was not a business matter for the group. It was a personality conflict between a member or two. And that is not a matter for the business, for the group to resolve. And any good intentioned exercise to make a resolution between some members is nice. And of course, entirely up to each of the members, relevant named people, but it doesn't have to be taken at a business meeting. So I hope you see the difference between a matter that is affecting business of the group and something that is a personality conflict between a few members.
If it is a personality conflict and it is not a matter of business group, then why are the matters being put in the group and ask questions in the group?
Good idea. You should be able to say that don't discuss this in the group.
Yes, because
that's one way.
Nobody can come and ask me, why is Marka not reported this to me? I fucking don't know the answer for this question. Don't put it in my group and make me think about this, that this is not a business meeting. Please clarify. If it's your issue with somebody, go and sort it out. Don't bring it in the group. But then if it is in the group, it is also taking time away from members to go through, like Rajesh pointed out. WhatsApp group is full of differences in personality rather than the program.
1 minute here. Hello. We are going off track here. Listen, that WhatsApp group. Let me come in. That WhatsApp, we have only one business group meeting. Yeah, I mean group. Yeah, R2S business group. Yeah, that WhatsApp group. What goes on over there? We shouldn't bring that matters over here. And whatever you all want to discuss should be kept out. Yeah, let them finish off over there. That is not related with our R2S group here. We should segregate these two things. This is getting very personal because we have that WhatsApp group. People put whatever they want. Then they say, bring it into the business meeting. Leave that here. We only talk business about our group, business purpose here. Not that WhatsApp group was discussed in that WhatsApp group. We
No,
should,
but
I think
since we are
this should be
discussing,
very clear.
since we are
Clearly,
discussing guidelines, these experiences
No, that's good.
gives
So
us
just
no, no,
gives us
it's good you're
entitled
asking this.
to get to the guidelines.
So
What
again, just
happens over
remember,
there? This, who is asking
My name's
questions?
Oscar and I'm an alcoholic. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's better to take my own inventory rather than take judgments and opinions about others. So when I take my own inventory, I get answers what I'm thinking about. And sometimes at an international event where you put your group's name in front and ask questions about what is happening in your home group without knowing the real facts of what really is happening in your home group, that is also dangerous. So, if it is my inventory, I take my inventory. If it is somebody else's inventory, let them take their own inventory. I leave
okay,
it
guys,
here.
let's bring this back together. And I think just like in any meeting, some things that happen show us what to do, and some things that happen show us what not to do. Similarly, our group experiences are like that. So you will keep seeing in the WhatsApp group some crazy crap, and you will of course discourage it, and hopefully over a period of time, with that discouragement, it'll stop, and something will be encouraged. So, yeah, let's kind of keep it on track here, and I know there are some issues.
Kunal, shall I say
between
something?
us, so let's make it. Yeah,
Kunal?
sure, you can.
We are forgetting that we're alcoholics. Yeah? We are going to be like this, That's the reason we have to learn to be tolerant of each other.
True.
That's the reason it has been said, the principles, not the personality.
Absolutely.
I think all
And
the
listen further. When you do the steps, the last step says having had the spiritual awakening. And then we go to the traditions. That's it. Well, you can carry on after that.
Sure. Guys,
My name's Oscar and I'm an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Can I say something? Praveen said something about, Oscar and Noel must have noticed it before, that how certain personalities could have their pigeons in A and vote, based on certain things. Even nowadays, there are certain personalities who call guys one-on-one and have their voice said, in a group conscience where, it affects A as a whole. So, I agree with, all these things that, about this quorum, good thing that I will put it on my business group agenda to have a sort of a quorum. And I agree also with Guru, that we are all alcoholics, so I must remember even I am one, that I also can go astray sometimes, see, in my thinking. So attacking somebody and, on a level is not good. Where the matter is put to rest, talking about the WhatsApp thing, I have personally apologized to a particular person and to the whole group. What else you want me to do? Crucify myself?
Oscar and Harish
I
and
think
Noel
this is
and
getting
everybody
personal.
else.
Yeah,
I
leave
think,
this aside here.
I think this forum is becoming a little different from what we want it to
Yeah.
be. So we have a choice here. We can keep it open, and you guys can keep airing your differences of opinion or
Yeah.
your grievances or your issues with each other without naming names, and we can continue this forever. Or we can just stop it for a minute and proceed with something that we came here to do. We have spent a lot of time here, so let's move on a little bit. None of these things are going to be resolved overnight. We just kind of grow from this. What's what's in the past, put it behind us, learn from it, and let's see what we can do better. We are all brothers in fellowship here. We are all brothers.
Okay. Can I read something?
My name is Harish and alcoholic.
Harish,
Yeah.
please let me stop you there. I really want to move this forward. I don't think there is a rebuttal required at it.
No, I was not to talk about this
and
at
I think I
all.
want to get to Robert's rule. It's
Yeah,
a
that's
very
what I was going
important
to
thing
talk
to
about, the
talk about right
Roberts
now.
rule.
It'll
My
give us
question
sense.
was based on the Roberts rule.
Yes.
And I did not know why it went there.
So wait,
because
tell
you
me,
said
let me
this is
explain
not
it.
a business meeting, it should go off the business meeting.
Exactly, and it is not. So we will go there right now. Let me ask everybody to please give me 5 minutes as we move into the Roberts Rules of Order. And maybe it'll give us a chance to reflect. Why don't we say the Serenity Prayer together? God, grant us the serenity
Grant us the
to
serenity
accept the things
to
we
accept the
cannot
things we
change,
cannot
the courage to change the
courage to
things we
change the
can,
things
Courage to
and
change
the
the
wisdom
things
to
we
know the
and
difference.
can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Thank you, guys. I know it's you know, it's been a long morning, and let's wrap up in about 20-25 minutes. We're hungry. I am. Let's take a quick look at Robert's Rules of Order, and this applies to a lot of things, not just business meetings. It says there's some principles out here: justice and courtesy for all, maintenance of order, consideration of one item at a time. We cannot keep adding agenda and making the issue complicated and adding one more dimension to it, one more angle to it. No, one thing at a time. All sides get heard. Everybody has a voice. Ability for each member to provide input. Give them a chance to say something. Majority rules. Protection of the rights of all members, including minorities. So even though majority rules, the minority is not. They have to be heard. All members have equal rights. I have 10 years, doesn't mean I have 2 votes, or my voice is longer, or I can speak for 10 minutes and you can only speak for 1 minute. No, we all have equal privileges. No person can speak until recognized by the chair. That means they speak when the chair says, okay, your turn. You can't just jump in and start arguing in the middle of everything. Personal remarks during the debate are out of order. And personal remarks doesn't necessarily mean I don't want to put a name to this, but it's a personal remark. We need to step away from that. You know, just it doesn't make it any better. It makes it even worse, actually, in my opinion. If you are saying something and you have a grievance, might as well say it to the person on face and bring it in the frame. Then at least the person can. Otherwise, somebody's saying something to Oscar and I think it's for me. You know, I'm an alcoholic. That's how I think. You know, why are they attacking me? So please, no personal remarks. They're out of order. Only one question at a time may be considered, and only one person has the floor at a time. May have a right to know what the immediately preceding question was. So, for example, there's a debate going on, and after some time, people forget, what are we talking about? So somebody can interrupt and say, Mr. Chairperson, what is the topic on consideration? What is the question being discussed out here? So that we can come back to the point immediately. Yeah. Full and free discussion of every main motion, basic right, quorum must be present. Quorum must be present. What is the quorum we have to discuss? A majority decides, except a majority decides the question, except in matters of sensitive nature, where significant unanimity or 2/3 vote is required. So what is sensitive and what is important, again, is a matter of for us to judgment. Anyway, silence means consent. So if you do not want saying something or you are not voting, you are considered as for the vote. Those who do not vote allow the decision to be made by those who do vote. The chair should always remain impartial. The chair doesn't have a vote, actually. Under special circumstances, he can, but the chairperson doesn't necessarily need to vote. He doesn't even should have views. He doesn't have to express his views. He's not a member. He's been elevated to the position of, he's been given the position of chair. He's chairing the meeting. His job is to maintain order and conduct the meeting, not to be a member at that point in time. Sorry. This is how it typically happens. A motion is made. I have a proposal. Somebody says, I second that proposal. So that every inconsequential or not important business, just because the guy has a plan in mind, should not be. One other person has to agree that, yes, this is an important matter. No member may speak until recognized by the chair. So you have to go around the table and ask everybody, and if they want to. It should be relevant. Discussion should be relevant to the question on the table. So if the question, somebody is talking about something else completely, the chair has a right to interrupt him and say, hey, listen, this is the question. What are you talking about? Please bring it to that. If you have nothing to say, then don't worry. Your turn will come some other time. This is important. No member can speak more than twice to each motion. The second time takes place after everyone wishing to speak has had an opportunity to speak. So there's a topic, and there are 10 people in the room. The topic is introduced by Oscar. Oscar says, I believe, we should do this. And he speaks for 2 minutes on why he believes so. It goes around the table to Harish. Harish says something. Noel says something. Something that Oscar doesn't agree with. Oscar, no, not allowed. Oscar has to wait patiently till everybody around the table has had a chance to say. Even after that, all remarks must be addressed to the chair. No cross debate is permitted. So Oscar cannot say, when he gets his turn second time, Noel said this. Noel, I want to tell you something. No, he doesn't have to tell Noel anything. He tells the chairperson whatever he wants to say. Mr. Chairperson, in my opinion, based on a member's input, I feel this needs to be added. This should be considered. And so on and so forth. So that's how the discussion happens, and it discusses issues, not personality. No one is permitted to make personal attack or question the motives of other speakers. In my opinion, I think Noel is doing this because he wants to be the chairperson of the next meeting. No, you have no right to question the motive of another person. And members may not disrupt the assembly. So that's it. You go around. This is informed group conscience. 10 people speak. All 10 people are heard. You want to speak again? No problem. We'll go around the table once more. And that's it. Unless you have anything new to add, no other discussion. Either you vote or you don't vote. That's it. Simple as that. But otherwise, this thing can go on forever. Yeah, that's just one second before I give you. I just want to see if I'm missing something here. At some stage, the chairperson has to call and say, discussion over. Let's call for a vote. All in favor, and so on and so forth. Okay, that's it. Yeah, go ahead, Noel.
You said when the person is silent, just for the knowledge, when you said the person who is silent among the 10, that means it's a yes, right? You just said that, right?
At the time of a vote. At the time of
the vote, yeah. The guy who stays.
It is considered as a, it's considered as a.
It's a yes. Okay. The second one you answered anyway. You can stop, instead of the discussion getting on and on, the chairperson can stop it and, go for the voting, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thanks, sir. Just to know. Thanks for this knowledge. That's good.
You can carry on. No problem. Thank you. So this is difficult sometimes to implement, but it is the best way to conduct a business meeting, especially if things are getting a little, hairy. So as a Noel, you should familiarize yourself with this as our GSR, as the chairperson of our business meetings. Harish, as your alternate GSR, should familiarize himself with this and support you on this. And we, as a group, must circulate this so that everybody is aware of these rules. It's not person who has, otherwise we will keep attacking the chairperson and not follow his protocol. So it is our responsibility as home group members, when we participate in a business meeting and when we do this, to allow this to happen. Otherwise it will degenerate into a fisticuff, and if we are in the same room, we'll probably be hitting each other, and words are exchanged, becomes ugly, and we're all alcoholics, like Guru keeps reminding us. We carry resentments, we carry anger, and then we, Oscar talked about it, we suppress it, and then we feel, why are we not given it? Where do I express this? I need to share this, and this is not right. I need to clarify something. So I understand all this is happening, and this is all happening because we are following some basic rules we are not following. If we all understand this, and of course there will still be some exceptions to the rule, there will still be some problems, but from this much it will become this much. It'll be okay. We will be able to handle it. Others will also now begin to realize, the guy who's breaking these rules is the one in wrong. It doesn't matter how important his point is. It doesn't matter how right he is. It's important that he is flouting traditions 1, 2, Robert's rules, and the guidelines and the decorum of the meeting. He is disruptive. Doesn't matter if he's got 25 years of sobriety and he thinks he's right about something. It's not right. It's not a good conscience. So that's something I thought I'll share with you guys, and try to see if we can bring it into our group again, not here in our business meetings. Yeah. Any comments? Any thoughts? Okay, we all seem to agree. All right, let's I think close here. I think it's time to break. We spent nearly 2 hours plus. I have covered quite a bit of things. We have some guidelines related matters, and we just stopped at tradition 2. So if you guys are okay with it, we can schedule another session down the line. We'll continue through the traditions and bring the concepts into it, and keep using this opportunity to apply them in real situations that we are all facing. Does that work for everybody? Does that make sense?
It's good, Kunal.
Yes, yes, yes.
We look forward to another session. This was very useful. I just have something with me which I would like
All
to
right, guys.
Hi.
Sure.
Yeah, this was given to me by Harry.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I want to share something which was given to me by Harry, 1st of September 2005. It says, "Oh God, I am not what I could be. I am not what I should be. I am not what I ought to be. But thank you, God, I am not what I used to be." So, very grateful for this. I still carry this around.
Harry had a way of these things.
It was his 25th birthday. Yeah, so he gave me this on his 25th birthday. Yeah.
King of slogans. Anybody else? Any closing thoughts? Any closing remarks?
Yeah, I had a resentment when Harry got 2005. I was not sober and he didn't, he put me at the side. So you see what happened. I had not even come to, I was sobered in 2006. So I knew him then before that.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kunal.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kunal.
Yeah, man, thanks, Kunal. It was amazing. This is
Good luck.
how we learn. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for being here for me.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Thanks.
Speak to you guys
Thank you,
soon.
Kunal. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
man, Kunal, guys. Yeah, thanks, guys, all of you. Hey, set the other date also, okay? Hi, guys. How are you all? Santosh, how are you?
Yeah.
Good?
Yeah, good.
See you, man. Take care, yeah?
Yeah.
Doing good. You're looking good. Keep it up.
But didn't go for a haircut. That's why it's very dangerous to go.
Arey, yaar, don't worry. I'll give you an idea how to cut your hair. You want to know how to cut your hair? Take one comb, buy those small blades. You know those topaz blades?
Yeah, I've seen in a video. I have seen it.
It works. Listen, I cut my head yesterday. Look at this. I said, let me try anyway. What to do? It works. Anyway, take care, man.
Honestly, I'm scared to go to the saloons and all.
So buy that one blade and use in the comb, and you're not going out, right? So you can just stay a little bit. Khalas. I used it. I said, let me try. Khalas, here. Twice I've used it.
No, I've seen some videos. They shared these videos of this one.
Yeah, I saw from that only, man. It wasn't my idea, man. I said, let me try from the video, and it worked. Anyway, who is going to see us now? Anyway, use. Khalas. See you, man. Take care. Okay.
Okay.
See you. Yeah. Bye.